All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. So, I just want to first off thank you all for coming. My name is Jake. I am a young white man with a green shirt, if you just so you know what I look like in case you can't see too well. And I just want to say at Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine information with fun, and we find that the best way to talk about difficult topics is to just start talking about them. You can visit our website at www.informyourcommunity.org, and you can find our social media links at the bottom of our website. And feel free to tell your friends to sign up to our mailing list at the top of the website. It is important to remind everyone here that we are not doctors and cannot give medical advice. While we can provide resources to those who are able to act in that capacity, we cannot do so ourselves. And I only say that because this movie's topic is emotional intelligence, and it's clearly an important topic for us to discuss. Emotional intelligence is your ability to manage both your own emotions and emotions of people around you to the extent possible. Most of us don't know that emotional intelligence accounts for over 60% of people's personal and professional achievements. And to give us an opportunity to talk about this topic, we chose the movie Inside Out 2, which touches on emotional intelligence. So to help us understand this topic further, now that we've watched the movie together, we'll have a discussion facilitated with some questions about the movie and topic. Our facilitator today is Hanali. Hi, Hanali. Thank you for your help today with this important discussion.
Thank you, Jake. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hanali, like Jake said, and I'm the program director for Popcorn and Chat at Inform Your Community. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm an Indian woman, and I'm currently wearing a dark blue top, and my background is the Inform Your Community's logo. I have black hair, black eyes, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Feel free to unmute yourself at any given point in our discussion to um, make a comment on something, and feel free to put anything in chat if that's more comfortable for you, or you can use the raised hand icon if that's easier. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed watching Inside Out too. And as we know, 95% of people think they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% really are. So going into that, what is your opinion on how emotional intelligence was portrayed in the movie? And feel free to unmute yourself and make any comments on how you thought the movie was and how the message of emotional intelligence was portrayed.
Well, one thing I liked about the movie was how it kind of showed the importance of all emotions, especially anxiety. I feel like it can be easy to kind of just give anxiety a negative connotation, but this movie kind of did a good job of showing that it's a necessary emotion and it kind of can help you out in some cases. So that's just something I thought was really cool about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes anxiety can be used as almost like a cautious emotion, keeps you in check. So it's very important to be in check with your emotions. And the movie did a great job expressing that emotion and showing how that can play a big role in our day to day.
What's the name of the person who's Pepper Potts in the Iron Man movie?
Um,
Is
I'm
that
not.
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Gwyneth Paltrow. She said about her kids that it's really important for them to embrace their emotions and then just let them kind of pass through them. It's something about judging them immediately that doesn't allow you to face a challenge because sometimes you fail forward. So like
Hmm.
sometimes you have to embrace your emotions so that you actually get to um, a place where you can have them, not feel the fear of being involved with them, but actually help them help you.
I
Pretty
agree.
good.
I think Pam has a comment.
Yeah, I wanna I wanna follow up on what Terrence was saying. You noticed I haven't finished the movie. I still have 20 more minutes to do it. I paused and I had to do other things. Sorry. Um, I'll get back to it. Does it time out?
It
I,
does not. You should have it at least one more day.
I'll leave I'll leave the link open then. Anyway, Terrence, very astute of you to notice that. You know, all these balls, all of these hardened memories that for one reason or another were judged, let's get them out of here. You know, it was I was shocked to see that would be how, as a model of living, you know. Be, yeah, I mean, if if you're in the moment, then you have an emotion, feel it. I mean, and then you're on to the next moment instead of judging, evaluating, storing, do all this a console. I don't have time for flippant emotional console in my life. Anyway, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And I apologize if I'm looking this way and that way. I just have two screens open. So, but yeah, thank you for sharing. And I agree. It's very important to keep in check with emotions and how it can play in our day-to-day decisions. Anyone else want to comment on how you thought the movie was? Okay. And the movie did a great job at displaying how emotional intelligence and self-regulations are important. So much so that the emotions play a big part in personal and professional growth. According to Harvard Business Review, emotional factors drive 95% of purchasing decisions. It plays a big part in the professional world as well, where 52% of companies offer senior management roles based on candidates' emotional intelligence skills. And then when leading teams, specifically millennials, 7% of millennials today are motivated by emotional intelligence of their leaders to help the company succeed. And your IQ accounts for only like 20% of your life, while EQ takes the remaining 80%. So emotional intelligence plays a huge role in our success as well. So what resources would you recommend to understand emotional intelligence further? Anything you have encountered that could be useful in keeping in check with educating ourselves in this topic?
Just thinking that sometimes they have the color kind of grid where it's just like red is anger and green is sunshine and happy, yellow is sunshine and those things where it's just like you should be able to pop in and out of each other's emotions as well as a way of being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes kind of thing emotionally so that you can understand what other people are feeling and then get in touch with the way they're acting. It won't take you over because you'll still be able to embrace how you feel. But then playing off of the other scenarios gives you the opportunity to think about what would happen if I was thinking that way. And by being able to do that, it actually gives you the latitude to understand, like, yourself better and then find the tools to be able to operate, emotionally in another vein that might, you're able to see, like, maybe if I can not get angry enough to hurt somebody, but angry enough to feel a change in myself that, so that I kind of a righteous anger about it, then I might be able to have a better outcome or at least understand how that exists. Because the world goes around with people being able to, not everybody's going to be a garbage man, but some people have to be able to make, the money to pay the garbage, those kinds of things, right? So you have to be able to do these things where you understand that you are a small cog, but the powerful play goes on and you contribute a verse. All right, I'll stop.
It's very powerful. And I love the point where you didn't say to dismiss the emotion, but to be in check with it and control and manage it to be portrayed in a way that makes sense. And you're not negatively I guess you're recognizing your patterns of emotions and being in check with it. And I think that's very important. So thank you for sharing that. And I think we can also learn from some of the notable people, like you said, Paul Ekman, Abraham Maslow, Kathy Mott, or even Yoda can be helpful in understanding emotional intelligence and understanding importance of pattern recognition and acknowledging recurring reactions and behaviors, that could be a great start as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And some of you may have found this movie to be a powerful movie. Why was this movie powerful to you?
Well, I'll say that like I think just kind of the scene with like Riley having her like kind of anxiety attack. I thought that was very powerful and very relatable because like I think everyone knows the feeling of having some overwhelming negative emotions, especially anxiety. And I thought it was portrayed really well in a way that like kids and families and just anyone of all ages can really relate to and understand. Because I think it's like it can feel like the end of the world sometimes, and like showing how like these emotion characters kind of like portrayed it, I thought was a great job of reflecting the very real feelings on the inside.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing. And even in the movie, I think mentioning how she knew what she liked, but because she wanted to fit in or wanted to change herself, evolving in the society, I think that plays a big factor in human development nowadays. And I think seeing that portion is relatable at any age now, whether it's fitting in at a new workplace or fitting in a new society or a new environment that you put yourself in, and feeling out of place and wanting to fit in and wanting other people to like you and almost um wanting to adapt yourself in order to fit in and not realizing your own interests and things like that. So, and that's like a human emotional process, and I love that the movie really mentioned that. And it, like you said, it's relatable at any level, be it child, kids, or adults. So I thought that was very powerful. And I think the movie did a great job of expressing how humans deal with different emotions. And it's also important to understand some of the highlights in the history that have shaped how this movie or this topic in general is looked at today. So the states, some of those uh, topics or those historical moments, in 350 BC, Aristotle referenced emotions in his work, both in his ethics and modes of persuasion. And then in 1870, Darwin's The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals was published. And then in 2013, the Utopia Foundation lobby began teaching social and emotional skills in schools. And then in 2020, the focus of emotional intelligence during COVID pandemic increased to prevent people from burning out and focus on empathy due to fear and practice self-care. So we've come a long way with this topic and discussing it and making it a more open and a topic that we talk about, and it's been written over the years, but how we cope with it and look at it, it's been developed, and I hope that, and we've come a long way, and we hope to um, keep going and learning more about what emotional intelligence look like and how we can educate our community, um, and be aware of people when, or at least be aware of emotional intelligence when interacting with different people around us. So yeah, and so how do you think as a community we can help others going through managing these emotions? And it's hard to see or hard to tell what a person is going through and what their internal emotions are. Like, for example, in the movie, Riley, she was going through a lot of things, but people around her weren't really able to see that. So how do we be more mindful as a community um, to be able to help others going through different emotions and be more mindful of it when we're interacting with people?
Could you repeat that last part of the question? I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's hard to in general, it's hard to see what people are feeling or understand what people are going through. So how can we be more in check and be able to be more mindful when people are when you're around people and you know that people are going through different emotions? How can you be more mindful and help the community in general, going through different emotional intelligence and dealing with their own emotions, how can you be more mindful when interacting with people?
More so, this is Radisha speaking. More so, you can just really kind of look at body language. You can look at posture, different things. Sometimes, if you ask someone, are they okay? And sometimes people are kind of withdrawn. Sometimes, just literally speaking to someone that you may see that just doesn't look like they, had anybody speak to them. People, you never know what someone's going through. Someone could be fighting all types of things, anxiety, grieving, whatever. And sometimes just a simple speak like, hey, someone noticed me, I'm here, really could do something. So it's just more so just being more humanized, pretty much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think Pam had a comment as well.
Yeah, it's I think it's about empathy, for the other, creating space for them to be whoever they are in that moment. Because that's total acceptance and on a deep personal level. But you also have to be authentic, that's so you have to, in other words, you have to feel what you're feeling. I don't get it. Now, I have to confess, this emotional intelligence thing, when I was going through, I'm retired, I'm 74, I'm retired. And I was in IT, which it's interesting field, but you have to, you talk about fitting in and succeeding. Those are real things, it's okay. And you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself, because lying and make believe and sucking up to people and all that other nonsense will backfire on you, because people see that. It's not, they're people too. They know exactly what you're doing. Okay. So you be you and let people be them. And I think that, everybody giving each other space would be very good. And I just want to bring up a book, Laura Huxley, wife of Audless. She wrote a book called You Are Not the Target, which it's before this EO thing came up. It's the perspective is, when you interact with people, what's going on the other side with them is really within them. It really doesn't have may not have anything to do with you. It's a very interesting book, and it's still in print, and it may even be free because it's over 50 years old.
Wow, thank you for sharing. And I like that's a great point. And it's important to remember to not tell people how to feel, tell people where to put or tell people, where to put their emotions. It's important for people to just to be able to just feel and have that space to do so without having that pressure of any kind. And it's also important to not regulate people or children's emotion by gender. Um, allow and encourage boys to let their feelings of sadness and fear show, and allow and encourage girls to similarly let their anger show, especially when they're young. Each is socialized out of these emotions as they get older, which causes problems for their mental health, potentially because of how people treat them when they share these emotions. So it's very important to start young and build that mindset, and raise people in a way that they're able to express their emotions in a very proper way. They shouldn't have to conceal it because of their gender that they are. So it's very important to raise them in that sense. And then don't treat boys and girls differently when they cry. I think it's crying is not a sign of a weakness, and I think it's a human emotion, and it should be something that nobody should feel against expressing it. So I think it's important to not treat both genders differently. And then we should also learn to have impulse control before we take action. And I think Terrence mentioned a little bit of that earlier, where having control over those emotions. Don't suppress them, but know when you're trying to, or when you're making impulse decisions, and being in check with your emotions. I think that is very important. Before you take any actions, reflect on your own feelings by taking time to recognize your own emotions and emotional responses to situations would go a long way. And starting with ourselves when it comes to it being more informed and you know uh, being more, I guess it starts from ourselves to understand emotional intelligence before we start changing our community and being able to understand other people's emotional situations. So that's where we can start. Any other comments or anything that came up that you guys would like to share regarding emotional intelligence? I do see that Pam mentioned the book in the chat box. If anybody's interested, please look at the chat box and see if you're wanting to, look into that book.
Yeah. Part of, and this is a deeper part of the scenario where it's like a friend of mine said, hey, when we were doing not a post-mortem kind of thing, but a friend committed suicide, and we were saying, my friend said this. He said, "Wow, he had such a interesting life on social media. His Facebook was always just like pictures of his kids up in those trees in the up in the tents that you connect with the ropes in the trees and everything. I didn't know he got to this point. And the thing is, you kind of got to be on the pulse. And a way to do that is just communicate with people, just open up and have conversations and be there. And then understand, like, you've got things that are going on. Don't minimize anyone's feelings or anything. Just feel like, you can sit there and go, oh, a kid's having an issue with their first breakup or something like that, and it gets better. But don't take their feelings away from them because that's exactly the way they feel. Kind of meet them where they're at. You can understand that it might get better, but you only get to share the part that it does by showing experience and having a conversation. And then we also have to realize that we're in jobs where and schools and things where we're dealing with people sometimes in longer spells than we do with our family at home. Sometimes you've given it all of the day, you get home and it's just like you eat and go to bed and no one hears from you. But like there are times where you're involved with other people and you might be all they have. Somebody might be going home to like a a quiet room or something, not even a dog or a goldfish, but you have to have those conversations where it ends up being, you know, someone reaches out before someone gets to a bad place and everything. And that's just in the worst cases, but just in general, because the confluence of the repetition of like the things that are attacking people can end up being a depressive place when they could actually have a glass, half full. So just try to just be in each other's lives. And, like IYC tries to be around and informing your community about like, just simple things, just conversations where you end up just talking about, you know, interacting where people sometimes, I don't get angry with the whole thing about everyone gets buried in social media because, sometimes they're actually reaching out to people on social media that way, or at least trying to get people interested in what they're doing and trying to find out what other people are doing. So that's long, but I mean, it's just be more interactive with other people. That's the only way you find out how people are, get on their pulse and find out how they're doing emotionally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
you never know what everyone is going through on social media, so it's very important to, be able to look at it as a place where people are actually trying to reach out to other people, and just, wanting to interact with other people. So that's a very insightful perspective. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so I think that would conclude today's event. So I just want to thank you all for joining us for the film Inside Out 2 and our virtual discussion. This is a really nice discussion.